Hi, I'm Jeremy, and I'm working on Merchants of the Stars. It's a space traffic control game where you control cargo ships by clicking and dragging them, attempting to guide them to docks where they can unload. If things get too chaotic and ships crash, you lose. In this video, I'm excited to share some of my recent progress, including adding asteroid haulers, pirates, big ships, a tutorial, and a few other small but important changes. But first, please wishlist Merchants of the Stars on Steam to be notified when it's released. Links below. For this video, I was focused on getting closer to a state where I could release a demo. I'd like to participate in Steam Next Fest in June, and for this, I need a demo. Even though June is still pretty far away, I know that the time will fly by, and getting a demo ready as soon as possible is the best way to avoid missing the deadlines. To do this, I figured I would need a little more content. While the one level I had so far was fun, I felt that having a few more gameplay elements and several distinct feeling levels would really hook players. Having around 3 varied and fun levels seems like a good target for a demo. In addition to more content, I would also need to add a tutorial. While the game is not very complicated, it also isn't self-explanatory. It isn't in a standard genre, so the click and drag mechanic definitely requires some explanation. But before I could get started on the new content or tutorial, I felt that first I had to fix a couple of small issues that were really bugging me. So let's go through those quickly. The first thing I did was add a custom cursor. Before, I was using the default OS cursor, and the new cursor instantly made the game feel so much more like an actual game. I decided to use a cursor from Kenny's Cursor Pack, and I think this cursor fits well with the game's aesthetic. Next, I wanted to make the play area's position in the window dynamic, and make it work well on all kinds of screen or window sizes. Before, on larger screens, the game would take up only the top part of the screen, leaving a large empty space at the bottom. But I wanted the empty space to be balanced at the top and bottom, leaving the game centered vertically. This was a surprisingly difficult task, but after trying several approaches, I finally got the game to fit, vertically centered into any window size. The main problem is that I wanted the play area to have a fixed 2:1 ratio and be centered vertically on the screen. But Godot's built-in aspect ratio container that is capable of maintaining the 2:1 aspect ratio doesn't support vertical centering very well. I ended up fixing this by dynamically adding margin to the top and bottom of the screen to maintain the central position of the play area. With these two annoying issues out of the way, I started working on the tutorial. There were some major challenges with creating the tutorial. First, I had to make a system for displaying text to the user. What I ended up with was a system of dialog boxes that could appear in 3 different places on the screen. When I need to tell the player to take some action, I pause the game and pop up a dialog box somewhere on the screen that doesn't cover anything important. Once the player has read the message, they click Dismiss to return to the game, and then do the required action. Along with the text explanation, I also wanted to visually illustrate the thing the player was supposed to do. I did this by reusing the cursor graphic and repeatedly animating it to show the click and drag the player was supposed to perform. This illustration is displayed while the message is being shown, so that the text and animation together make it crystal clear what the player is supposed to do. Next, I had to script the tutorial so that a predictable series of events would occur. Messages would pop up at appropriate times, and the player wouldn't get soft-logged. To do this, I had to revamp how levels worked considerably, and add notifications to the level system whenever an action was taken in the game, such as a new ship entering, an asteroid appearing, cargo being delivered, and so on. With all of this in place, I was able to script a simple tutorial. First, a ship appears, and instructions are given to the player on how to deliver cargo. Once the ship delivers its cargo, the player is instructed on how to make it leave the play area. Once that's done, an asteroid appears, and the player is instructed how to destroy it. Finally, another ship appears and delivers a final piece of cargo to complete the tutorial. Overall, I'm pretty happy with how the tutorial turned out, and while it's quite basic, it does a good job of explaining the very simple mechanics of the game. With the tutorial done, it was finally time to add some new content. New content in this game is a bit tricky. The central concept of the game is that the only mechanic is clicking and dragging. I like the simplicity of this, but it also ensures that the game will work well across both desktop and mobile platforms. But the simplicity cuts both ways. Any new gameplay elements need to fit into this limited model, and it requires a bit of creativity to design interesting things with only a single control. So far, I had created 2 different things that fit this design philosophy. The first was the ship itself, where clicking and dragging controlled its path. The second was the station. Since the station itself is immobile, Clicking and dragging instead controls the aim of its laser. The first thing I decided to implement was the simplest and most obvious: a bigger ship. This big ship is able to carry up to 4 cargo instead of just 2, and moves a little bit slower. It's not particularly exciting, but it adds a little bit of welcome variety to the game. It was also nice to start with implementing something simple like this, because just having 2 ships required a fairly substantial refactor of my ship code, to avoid having to copy and paste huge amounts of code. Next, I decided to create an asteroid hauler ship. While before, the only method for dealing with asteroids was the station laser, I thought it would be interesting to have a ship type that could collect asteroids and return them to the station in exchange for money. Asteroid haulers work a little differently than ships. They are spawned without cargo, but when they fly near enough to an asteroid, a tractor beam automatically collects the asteroid. Then, they can return that asteroid to any dock. I decided not to let asteroid haulers leave the play area once they're done a delivery. Instead, they stick around and can continue to collect more asteroids. For the asteroid hauler's art, I decided to use a ship sprite from Zentoki's Space Breaker pack, because it has what looks like a round landing pad on it, a perfect spot for an asteroid. I'm not entirely happy with this choice, because the ship looks a little more like a combat ship than a hauler, but it's fine for now. After playing around with this concept for a while, I found it pretty fun. It enabled a couple of level designs that I thought might be interesting. The first was a simple station level, but with an asteroid hauler and a relatively large number of asteroids. This level is close to the same as my original Deep Space Station level, but is a small step more complex than what was possible before. My second level idea was a more specific scenario. The idea would be that a planet is cut off from a station by an asteroid belt. You are given an asteroid hauler and need to clear a path through the asteroid belt to allow cargo deliveries from the planet to reach the station. The concept is decent, and with some balance tweaks I think this idea will end up pretty good. After completing the asteroid hauler, I next wanted to add pirates, another hazard type that would be a bit more active than asteroids. My plan was to give them some simple AI that would be predictable, but also make them feel like an actual enemy, rather than just an obstacle. I decided to implement the pirate as a small ship with 2 simple behaviors. If one of your ships gets close to a pirate, it will turn to pursue your ship. Then, if the ship gets very close, the pirate will shoot it with a laser, it will explode, and you'll lose. Effectively, pirates are like larger asteroids that steer toward you. As with asteroids, pirates can be destroyed by the station's laser. To make the point at which they'll shoot you easier to understand, the danger area around the pirate is highlighted in red. As with the asteroid hauler, I decided to go with ship, turret, and laser sprites from Zentoki's Space Breaker pack. I'm not sure this is the most piratey looking ship of all time, but it will do for now. The implementation of pirates seems to be fun in practice. While the pirates are incredibly dumb, they feel like a menacing and active threat. The simple AI also allows for some tactics, like kiting pirates into range of the station laser, or redirecting them to fly out of the play area. While pirates make sense as an occasional random spawn on the basic station level, I had an idea for a more specialized level as well. In this level, the station is inside of a nebula, and accessible from only one side. Pirates patrol across the entrance to the nebula. Your ships spawn to the right, and need to cross the pirate patrol to make cargo deliveries and then escape back to deep space. This level ended up quite fun. On top of the normal management of the game, you have to constantly develop new strategies for entering and exiting the nebula safely, depending on the specific locations of the pirates. Plus, when a pirate follows you too close to the station, you can use the station's laser to destroy it, which is quite satisfying. For the nebula level, I used cloud sprites from this 20 Clouds pack by Cass. They look really bad and pixelated right now, because I stretched them out to make a quick and dirty nebula, but I'll definitely be changing this art later, so it's okay for now. The asteroid hauler, big ship, and pirate are the main additional gameplay elements that I've added so far, but I do have ideas for more. The most clearly conceptualized one is your own gunship that can be used to counter the pirates. It could have something like 3 health and could potentially be repaired by docking at a station. I'd also like to add some kind of simple passenger system. It would be similar to cargo, except it would involve both pickup and delivery, and might incentivize speed of a delivery, similar to a game like Mini Metro. Besides that, the next steps for the game are pretty clear in my mind now. I'm still planning to get a demo out soon, but I have a few other things to do first. One important task is making a clear progression of levels, and getting a few players to try it out. This means having a reasonable sequence of stages, with somewhat balanced win conditions, and not the smattering of random debug levels that I have now. I'll also need to add the asteroid hauler and pirates to a tutorial somewhere. Finally, I've decided it's soon time to figure out what the actual art direction of the game is, and I think I have a decent direction to try, that will hopefully work, even with my meager art skills. Please wishlist Merchants of the Stars on Steam, and like and subscribe to this video to follow my progress. I'm told I need like 7,000 wish lists to successfully launch on Steam, so I'll need to do a little better than the 169 I have so far. I'll see you for the next one. Bye!